We bring you the news from Tokyo. I'm Joseph Queenie.
And I'm Keiko Kitagawa.
In our top stories, Tokyo Electric Power Company has unveiled details of its plan to process radioactive wastewater at its damaged Fukushima plant.
TEPCO has reassessed its estimates of fuel damage in reactors number 1 to number 3.
And the Japanese Government Council on Disaster Preparedness has decided to drastically revise its plans for dealing with earthquakes and tsunamis. Now, the news in detail. Tokyo Electric Power Company has unveiled details of its plan to process radioactive wastewater at its damaged Fukushima plant. The wastewater has been hampering efforts to restore the reactor's cooling systems. The company announced on Wednesday it would start building early next month, together with U.S. and French firms, a storage and processing facility for nearly 70,000 tons of highly radioactive water. The utility firm aims to begin operating the system in June of this year. The contaminated water is believed to be pulled inside turbine buildings and utility tunnels at the plant's number 1, 2, and 3 reactors. Tokyo Electric had earlier said it aims to set up by July of this year a system to remove radioactive substances from the water and reuse it to cool the reactors. Contaminated water will be put through an oil filter, and the density of radioactive material would be lowered using a mineral called zeolite. Salt would then be removed from the water so that it can be used to cool the reactors again. Radioactive waste from this process would be stored inside the nuclear complex, but the utility has yet to consider methods for its final disposal.
TEPCO has begun testing one of the damaged reactors of the Fukushima plant to check its plan to submerge and cool the hot fuel rods. The utility firm began pumping more water into reactor number 1 on Wednesday in order to monitor changes in the water depth in the containment vessel and check for leaks. After increasing the amount of water from 6 to 10 tons per hour on Wednesday, the firm says it has delayed further raising the amount injected due to data showing some instability in the state of the reactor. The company initially planned to increase the amount to 14 tons per hour at around 4 p.m., but is now keeping the injection at 10 tons per hour. TEPCO plans to examine the possibility of an increase in the water amount again at around 10 p.m. on Wednesday. The utility originally planned to decrease the flow back to 6 tons per hour on Thursday morning and then check for water leaks inside the reactor building by using a remote-controlled robot. The test is part of a plan to fill the number 1 and 3 reactors' containment vessels with water by July to cool the fuel rods in a stable manner.
TEPCO has reassessed its estimates of fuel damage in reactors number 1 to number 3. The company on Wednesday announced new estimates of damage after the country's nuclear safety agency questioned the accuracy of the initial assessments. The utility has revised the estimated fuel damage in the number 1 reactor from 70% to 55%. TEPCO also says that it acted inappropriately in excluding fuel damage of less than 5% in calculating total damage ratios for the number 2 and number 3 reactors. As a result, the utility revised upward its estimates of damaged fuel in the number 2 and number 3 reactors by 5 percentage points each, to 35% and 30% respectively. The company released its initial estimates as of March 15th based on radiation levels in the reactors and their containment vessels. Earlier this month, the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency raised the crisis level at the Fukushima plant to the highest 7 on the international scale based on its estimate of the volume of released radioactive substances. TEPCO says the corrected estimates will not affect the agency's crisis rating.
People in the United States have called for a review of the country's nuclear power policies on the 25th anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine. And rallies across the U.S. on Tuesday, residents expressed solidarity with Japanese who've been affected by the accident at the disaster-damaged Fukushima plant.